Gauravani Pracharine
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi
Paschatya Deshatarine
Pachatya Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadara
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Rama
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 Rama, Hare Hare.
So today we'll be covering verses chapter 5, text number 7 to 12. This aspect is called as devotee is dear to everyone. So let us recite the verse. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma
Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma
vijitatma jitendriyaha
Jitatma Jitendriya
Vijitatma Jitendriyaha,
sarva bhutatma bhutatma
Sarva
Sarva
Bhutatma Bhutatma,
Bhutatma
kurvan apina lipyate.
Kurvan Apina Lipyate,
Yoga
Yate
yukto vishuddhatma
Yoga
Yoga
Yukto
Yukto Vishuddhatma
Vishuddhatma,
vijitatma jitendriyaha
Vijitatma
Vijitatma
Jitendriya
Jitendriyaha,
sarva bhutatma bhutatma
Sarva
Sarva
Bhutatma
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 Bhutatma,
kurvan apina lipyate.
Kurvan
Kurvan Apina Lipyate.
So one who is worked in devotion, yoga yuktaha, he is vishuddhatma, one who is a pure soul, vijitatma, one who is able to control his mind, jitendriyaha, and he is able to control his senses, sarva bhutatma bhutatma, he is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. Kurvan apina lipyate, though always working, such a man is never entangled. Na lipyate, he is not entangled. Kurvan api, although he is working, he is not entangled. That is the perspective. So in this verse, there are three types of jnanis that are mentioned. One is known as Vishuddha Atma, one who is controlled their intelligence. Vijita Atma, one who is controlled their minds. Jita Indriyaha, one who is controlled his senses. So how a devotee is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to the devotee? Because one works in Krishna consciousness, he is servant of all. So he is dear to everyone. And how a devotee is able to control his mind, intelligence, and senses? Because everyone is satisfied by his work, he is pure in his consciousness. Because he is pure in his consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. Because his mind is always fixed, his senses are also controlled. And there is no chance of being deviated from Krishna, nor is there any chance he engages his senses in matters other than service to the Lord. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. So this is the perspective what we receive from Prabhupada. Because the intelligence is controlled, his mind is fixed. Because mind is fixed, senses are regulated. Because senses are regulated, he is able to act in such a way that he will not offend anyone. That is the primary perspective that is being communicated here. But how was then Arjuna offensive in Kurukshetra war? To see, Arjuna was physically trying to harm people. But Krishna is saying, spiritually no one was killed as soul cannot be slain. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna who was personally present. Because this war was already decided by Krishna. Arjuna actually wanted to avoid the war and he did not want to fight. But Krishna is saying this war is decided by me. Even if you don't fight, this war will continue. All the people assembled here are supposed to die. So in that way, it is not an offensive act on behalf of Arjuna. Arjuna was actually not really fighting. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. So because he was acting on the order of the Lord, such a person is never entangled in the reactions of the work. So Prabhupada also explains about this perspective in one lecture. Vijitatma means he has control over his body. Jitendriya means he has control over his senses. Sarva bhutatma bhutatma, and he has identified himself with all living entities. Kurvan apina lipyate. If he works in that condition of life, then he is practically doing nothing. Because we are being entangled in this material world and according to the reaction of my own work. So if I am situated in this Krishna consciousness, and I am in a pure state of my Atma, and I am controlling my body and senses, I identify with everybody, every living entity, then I have no entanglement, no reaction of my work. So this is how one engaged in Krishna consciousness is free from all obligations of reactions, and he is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. So there was a disciple and a guru who were walking down the road. So when they saw one wild elephant that was running hearsay, means it is running crazily, the Mahout who was controlling the elephant called out to the people, keep out of the way, the elephant is wild. So the guru had taught the disciple that there is God in all living entities as Paramatma. Now the disciple thought, if there is one God in all, surely he is in the elephant too, he will not harm me. And so he stood right there as where he was, and he was not paying any attention to the Mahat's precautions. The tusker came by the young man and it flung him aside and threw him aside. So he was bruised and he was bleeding all over. So he complained to the guru, where did I go wrong? I saw the same God in the elephant as in myself. Why then did this happen to me? So the guru started explaining to him what was problem in his thinking. He said, you saw the same God in elephant, but not in the Mahat, who was instructing you to go away from the place. He warned you to move out of the way, but if you had paid to the God in him, you could have easily avoided the circumstances. So that is the perspective. So everyone is trying to understand in their own level, but we have to see how Lord is also trying to update us through others. So similarly, there is one story what we come across about a devotee, a staunch devotee of the Lord, who had complete faith that Lord will protect him. So in a village, this person was doing worship to the deity, and suddenly there was an announcement 1 week before there will be a heavy cyclone, but the entire area will be a low-lying area. It will be flooded. Please relocate from the area. The pujari was not moving out when everybody were going away from the village. He said, no, Lord will protect me. After 3 days, there was heavy rain and the water started filling up. So he almost, water came to neck level. Then when people came in a boat and asked him to please move away, he said, no, I will not move away. Then he climbed to the first floor of the building. Water was coming there also. After 1 week, it was a situation where a helicopter came and they started asking him to climb to the helicopter so that they will move him to a properly secure place. He said, no, I have faith in the Lord that he will protect me. But after a few days, because of no food and no shelter, and he had to pass away. And because he had strong faith in the Lord, he went to Vaikuntha. There, he was questioning the Lord. I was waiting for you. I thought you will come and personally help me, but you had not helped me in this situation. The Lord started explaining to him that it was he who had sent the message 1 week before that there will be a drowning, and it was he who had sent a boat through people after 3 days when the water was there, and it was he who had sent the helicopter to pick him up after 7 days. Still you don't pursue me in my actions, then how can I help you? So similarly, so Lord is ready to help us, but are we ready to observe him, and are we ready to pick him up, that guidance and implement in our life? So we have to be very careful in what we are thinking and how we are thinking, and how Lord is ready to help us, and how we have to be ready to receive the instructions. Okay, next there are 2 verses. All of you can recite. Naiva kinchit karomiti
Naiva kinchit karomiti
yukto manyeta tattvavet
To manyeta tattva ved
pashyan shrunvan sprashan jigran
asyan shunvan spashan jigran
asnan gachan swapan spashan
asan gachan swasan
pralapan visrajan granan
pralapan visrajan grahnan
unmishan nimishan api
Unmishan nimishan api.
Indriyan indriyarteshu
Indriyat indriyatyeshu.
vartanta iti dharayan.
Vartanta iti dharayan.
Naiva kinchit karomiti
Naiva kinchit karomiti.
yukto manyeta tattvavet.
Yukto manyeta tattvavet.
Pashyan shrunvan spashan jigran
Pasyan shanvan sparsyan grihnan.
asnan gachan swapan swashan
Asnan gachan swapan. Swapan.
pralapan vishrajan granan
Pralapan visrajan grahnan.
unmishan nimishan api
Nimishan api.
indriyan indriyarteshu
Indriyan indriyateshu.
vartanta iti dharayan.
Vartanta iti dharayan.
So a person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Naiva kinchit karomiti. So he is not doing anything. Na eva kinchit karomiti. Yukto manyeta tattvavet. So one who is in this divine consciousness. So tattvavet, one who knows about the subject. Pashyan, one who is seeing. Shrunvan, hearing. Sprishan, touching. Jigran, smelling. Asnan, eating. Gachan, moving. Swapan, one who is sleeping. Swasan, one who is breathing. Although he is thinking, he knows within himself, actually he is not doing anything at all. This is body is doing by its own. Because pralapan, vishrajan, granan. Pralapan means while speaking. Vishrajan means while evacuating. Granan means while receiving. Unmishan, nimishan api, are opening or closing the eyes. Indriyani, indriyarteshu. The senses are engaged with sense objects. Indriya, indriyartaha. Vartanta iti dharyan. He is actually aloof from them. That is what the perspective, what here we are understanding. So, what are the 5 immediate and remote causes for any work to happen? These are the 5 causes that are to be fulfilled: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and fortune. That fortune is actually Paramatma. So, how does a Krishna conscious person free himself from reaction of work? By being pure in his existence, he has nothing to do with any work, because whatever he does for the satisfaction of the Lord without any personal sense enjoyment. Although he is acting with his body and senses, he is conscious of his actual position, that he is only a servant who is executing his duties. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification. But in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in satisfaction of Krishna's senses. It's a primary discriminative subject. In material subject, everybody are thinking how to satisfy himself. But in Krishna consciousness, everybody are thinking how to satisfy Krishna. That is the variation factor. Because a Krishna conscious person is never affected by the action of the senses. He cannot perform any activity except in the service of the Lord, because he knows that he is an eternal servitor, and the servant does not do anything beyond what master instructs him. That is a simple principle. So in one lecture, Prabhupada explains about this. Krishna says, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavid. I am not doing anything. A Krishna conscious person does not think that he is accomplishing a lot. If you ask him, is he going to a certain place, even though when it is already agreed that he is going, if you ask him, when are you going? He will say, I do not know when I shall go. But when Krishna asks me or allows me to go, then I shall go. I am saying this from my own practical experience of my Guru Maharaj, my spiritual master. He would never say, I am going or I am doing. But he would say, if Krishna desires, then I shall do it. If Krishna desires, then I shall go. He always depended on Krishna. This is called as Vishuddhatma. Tattvavit means one who knows the truth. The truth is that I shall only go when Krishna allows me to go. Because he is completely dependent upon the Lord, he gives complete credit to the Lord and he accepts the instruction of the Lord only for executing whatever he is supposed to do. Everything on the order of the Lord or the spiritual master, he does. Anything individually, he will not take any decision. So that is the perspective. So now, actually, if he's saying he is doing all sorts of activities, but he is not doing, he is not connected with any activity, as explained in this conclusion, in this verse with one analogy. All of you can recite this verse. Brahmani adaya karmani.
Brahmani adaya karmani.
ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्मणि
Sangam tyaktva karoti yaha.
Sangam tattva karoti yaha.
Lipyatena sa papena.
Lipyatena sa papena.
Padmapatram imambasa.
Padmapatram ivam basa.
Brahmani adaya karmani.
Brahmani adaya karmani.
Sangam tyaktva karoti yaha.
Sangam
Sangam
त्यक्त्वा
tattva
करोति
karoti
यः
yaha.
Lipyatena sa papena.
Lipyatena sa papena.
Padmapatram imambasa.
Padmapatram
Padmapatram
ivam
basa.
So one who performs his duty without attachment, Brahmani adaya karmani, Sangam tyaktva karoti yaha. Surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, and he is doing without attachment, Sangam tyaktva karoti yaha, one who performs. Lipyate nasa papena, he is unaffected by sinful reaction. Padma patram ivambasa, as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. So because Brahman is the source of everything, this is mentioned in a verse called Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. That indicates that everything in this material world is a manifestation of Brahman energy. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. So how does a devotee free himself from the result of his activities? So one who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that Krishna is the proprietor of everything and everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities, whether virtuous or sinful. Because everything is for the pleasure of the Lord, success or failure, he is not bothered. So there is nothing to do with the results or the reactions of the work. So what is the conclusion? A person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses. But a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of the Krishna. Because everything, Lord is the proprietor, everything has to be used for his happiness, for his pleasure. So even though the body, I am not the owner of the body, so body, it belongs to the Lord, it has to be used for his happiness, for the service. So Prabhupada again explains with an example in this lecture. The example is given here of the leaf of the lotus flower, which although it is in the water, has no connection with the water. Not a drop of water will stay there, although it is in the huge mass of water. Waves are going over it and the water is always moving, but the particular leaf of the lotus flower has no connection with the water. Similarly, with all the upheavals of this material world, one who is Krishna conscious is oblivious to such disturbances. Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, this is a shloka quoted by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Everyone is afflicted, but a man who is in Krishna consciousness will not be afflicted. Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic. If there is an epidemic in the city, a person who has taken the vaccine will not get affected. Similarly, this Krishna consciousness is the antiseptic method to free one from the contamination of this material world. So, lipyate nasa papena, a Krishna conscious person is not affected by the contamination of this world. So, clearly Prabhupada explained this Krishna consciousness is like an vaccine which has to be taken, which is antiseptic, so that we do not become carried away by the outcome of this material world. So you can see the lotus leaf, although it is there in the water, it is like how you see mercury, it is mercury is untouched. It will break away into separately. So water and lotus leaf, although they are there, water is not sticky to the lotus leaf. So there was one sadhu who was collecting funds to feed the poor. So he approached a gambler who was there in a club for some donation. So this gambler was very rude personality. He doesn't entertain all these things and all. So he spat on the sadhu. So taking out the handkerchief, the sadhu washed his face, wiped his face, and said to the gambler, "My dear sir, whatever you have spit, that was for me. What are you going to give for the poor?" The gambler was moved by the talk of this sadhu, and he took out all the money that he had won that day, and he handed over to him. He went home, he handed over the entire property to him, and he became his disciple for the rest of the life. So the gambler became a devotee of Lord by this humble behavior of a sadhu. Because if somebody spits on us, or if somebody criticizes us, we become very angry, we become very rude, and we try to retaliate. But this sadhu had conquered a person just by his simple, humble demeanor. This is what is actually what is required for us. How one has to be very happy, how one has to be very positive in his life, how he has to communicate in such a way that people will come forward and take up this Krishna consciousness in a most favorable way. So that the way how to present it depends upon the devotee. So how he has to make it interesting according to time, place, and circumstances. Okay, next 11th verse. Kayena manasa buddhya
कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या
kevaler indriyairapi
केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि
yoginaha karma kurvanti
योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति
sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye.
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा शुद्धये
Kayena manasa buddhya
कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या
kevaler indriyairapi
केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि
yoginaha karma kurvanti
योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति
sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye.
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा शुद्धये.
So the yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses. Kayena manasa buddhya kevaler indriyairapi. Kayena means by his body, manasa means by his mind, buddhya means by his intelligence, kevaler indriyairapi. And even with the senses, he acts. Yoginaha, the yogis, karma kurvanti, although they are engaged in the service of the work, sangam tektva atma shuddhaye, only for the purpose of atma shuddhaye, for the purification. Although they are they work abandoning the attachment, sangam tektva, by abandoning attachment, atma shuddhaye, only for the purpose of purification do they work. So how actions are purified? By acting in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna. Any action, whether of body, mind, intelligence, or even of the senses, is purified of material contamination. So therefore, purified activities, which are generally called as sadachara, can be easily be performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. And quoting from a sloka, Rupa Goswami, Iha yascha harer dasyar karmana mansagira nikilasavu api avastasu jivan mukta sauchyate. Even though he is engaged in all sorts of activities, but because he is karmana manasagira, by his words, by his actions, by his thoughts, he is working for the satisfaction of the Lord. He is a liberated personality even in this material world. And explains the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness, because he knows that he is not the body, and this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and body too belongs to Krishna. So first we are clear, who am I? Am I this body? Am I the spirit soul? If I am the spirit soul, whom does this body belong to? Whom does this spirit soul belong to? So when he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna, because everything that is, whatever we have, is being granted by the Lord. So everything to be utilized in the service of the Lord. Since he is one with Krishna and is devoid of false ego, that leads one to believe that he is the body. So that is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Because one, if you are the false ego, I think I am the doer and I am this body and I am here to satisfy this body. Since he is free from the false ego, he does not act anything on the bodily platform. He acts everything for the Krishna conscious perspective and for the satisfaction of Krishna. So that is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. So he is known as Prasannatma, he who is dear to all. A simple small video to explain how devotee sees everybody in the service of the Lord, and he tries to do a little bit help of his capacity, what he can do. That's why he becomes very dear to everyone, and everyone becomes very dear to him also. This is a gross example. So one more last verse for this subject today. Yukta karma phalam tektva
Yukta karma phalam tyakva
Tyaktva
shantim apnoti naistikim.
Shantim
shantim
apnoti
apnoti
naistikim.
naistikim.
Yuktaha kamakarena
Ayuktaha
Ayuktaha
kamarena
phale sakto nibadyate.
phale
Phale sakto
sakto
nibadyate.
Yukta karma phalam tektva
karma phalam
Karma
tyaktva
tyakva
shantim apnoti naistikim.
shantim apnoti
shantim
naistikim.
apnoti naistikim.
Ayuktaha kamakarena
Ayuktaha
Ayuktaha
kamarena
kamakarena
phale sakto nibadyate.
phale
phale
sakto
sakto
nibadyate.
nibadyate.
So the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to the Lord.
When you get angry before marriage, to whom you used to?
Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Yukta karma phalam tektva shantim apnoti naistikim. He offers shantim apnoti naistikim. But ayuktaha kama karena. But a person who is not in ayuktaha, not in a union with the divine, phale sakto nibadyate, who is greedy for the fruits, becomes entangled. Phale sakto nibadyate, he becomes entangled. So this is the discrimination for those who work for satisfaction of the Lord and those who work for sense gratification. So for those who work for the satisfaction of the Lord, shantim apnoti naistikim, he attains unadulterated peace. So this is what is the secret of this Krishna conscious realization. In Krishna consciousness, there is no duality. All that exists is a product of Krishna's energy, and Krishna is all good. And activities in Krishna consciousness are on the absolute plane. They are transcendental and have no material effect. One is filled with peace in Krishna consciousness. One who is entangled in profit calculation for sense gratification cannot have that peace. So this is the secret of Krishna conscious realization, that there is no existence besides Krishna is the platform of peace and fearlessness. So this is a simple principle, that there is nothing which is existing beyond Krishna. So everything is for the service of the Lord. So one attains the platform of peace and fearlessness with its firm belief that all activities done for the satisfaction of the Lord have no material effect. So what is the cause of anxiety? Bhagavatam glorifies this. Bhayam dvitiyabhiniveshatasya. The cause of anxiety over the result of an activity is explained as being due to one's functioning in the concept of duality, that is, without knowledge of the absolute. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya. Fear is the second factor. What happens of the result or failure or the system or anything? People think too much about the concept, thinking that they are the cause of the activity, then one becomes sucked into that activity. So Prabhupada explains in one lecture, those who are in Krishna consciousness, he does not expect any result of his work. Oh, I am doing this work, so I will enjoy this result. That never comes in the mind of a person who is Krishna conscious. He doesn't mind, he doesn't think of any result. Yuktaha karma phalam tektva, and that is the source of peace. Shantim apnoti naistikim. Naistikim means he is very confident that I am engaged in Krishna duty, so I am protected, and what is the result I do not mind. Ayuktaha, but one who is not connected in that Krishna consciousness, then kama karena phale sakto nivedyati. He, out of his lust, he becomes attached to the result, and therefore he becomes entangled in this material world. Ayuktaha kama karena phalo sakta nivedyati. Because he has got attachment for the result, therefore ultimately he becomes entangled with this material world. So any questions or answers? So this is the perspective how devotees work for the satisfaction of the Lord. And the Lord also reciprocates with the devotees. There is one particular story today being the occasion of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, his appearance day. One of the great devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So when he went to towards Nepal, Gandaki, he wanted to take bath. So he was dipping his kamandalu in the water there in the Gandaki river. So when he picked up, there were 12 shaligramas in that kamandalu. So then he puts back the shaligramas. Again, he will take the kamandalu to dip the water. Again, actually, the shaligramas come to him. Like that, 3 times when he does, he thinks that Lord wanted to come with him. So he collects the 12 shaligramas and he will bring them to his house. And to his house means he brings them to Vrindavan. He starts worshipping them. So during one Janmashtami, there was one rich merchant who was distributing gold and jewelry and dresses to all the other deities. So he wanted, he also gave some of the jewelry and dress and everything to Gopal Bhatta Goswami also to decorate his deity and celebrate the Janmashtami very nicely. But Gopal Bhatta Goswami was feeling, because other devotees were having deities, like Jiva Goswami was having Radha Damodar, Rupa Goswami was having Radha Govindji, Sanatana Goswami was having Radha Madan Mohanji. They were all big deities. They were able to decorate nicely. He was feeling a little bad that he was not having a physical deity where he will be able to decorate him nicely. He was only having shaligramas. So that night when he went to bed, one of the shaligramas by name Damodara will transform himself into a beautiful deity of Lord Krishna. It is called as Radha Raman deity. So next day morning when he goes to have darshan of the shaligramas, he sees one of the shaligrama transformed himself into a Krishna, beautiful Krishna, the most cutest deity in Vrindavan. So then the message is communicated to all the Goswamis that Shaligrama transformed himself into a deity. So then all the other devotees also, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they all come there to witness this beautiful deity. Everybody come there. Then the Namakarana happens. Then the festival is celebrated in a very gorgeous way. Then the deity is installed. So in that way, see how the devotee, since he is very dear to the Lord, Lord becomes very dear to the devotee. To satisfy the desire of the devotee, Lord transforms himself into a great personality, into a deity, which is practically a self-manifested deity. And they say Lord also exhibits to the reciprocation. When he is very happy, devotees can see his smiling face, and the smile keeps varying. It will be sometimes he will be able to see his teeth also. It is said the more he is happy, the more his teeth becomes visible. It is said also. So this is a very nice way how a devotee and the deity reciprocates, how the Lord reciprocates, and how devotees also can feel, yes, Lord is there for me. He is ready to support me in all the circumstances, and he is ready to guide me. In that way, I am also assured that Lord will take care of me. So similarly, there is one more story about one more devotee by name Bodhana. He was also a great devotee of the Lord, and it is said that he is from almost like Krishna's time. He was a great devotee. So one day he forgot about worshipping the Lord, and he was sitting in the house when everybody went to worship the Lord and Govardhan Puja and all. Then later when he realizes his mistake, he goes and prays to Krishna, and please forgive me that he could not come forward to worship him on that specific day. So Krishna becomes very happy, and he says he will give him an opportunity to worship him more in Kali Yuga. So he will take birth, and he and his wife will continue to be his devotees. So both of them will take his place in somewhere in this place called Dakor. That is the place where, that is the forest where earlier Hidimba had been staying in that forest. It is a very nice serene atmosphere. There are lakes, there were sages who had settled there, nice forest there. There was one devotee who had worshipped Lord Shiva there, and he establishes Lord Shiva to pray him there, to stay him there as eternally. So he's known as Dankachor Mahadev. So from whose name it becomes Dakor. So later this devotee was staying in that area. So every 6 months he used to worship Tulsi. So every day he used to worship Tulsi. From the Tulsi leaves he used to accumulate. And every 6 months he used to go from there to Dwarka to worship the Lord. So to his full satisfaction, he and his wife will worship the Lord, and they used to come back after some days. So every 6 months, this was his routine. So when he became old, up to 72 years, he was able to physically carry out the walk from their place to Dwaraka. As he was becoming older, Lord was also concerned about this person's health. So when he was about to travel next time, Lord says, I am very much satisfied with your worship and with your prayers. So next time when you are coming, you come with a bullock cart. Then I will come with you and you can worship me at your place to your heart's content. So next time he comes with a bullock cart and he was stationing that bullock cart, then the local people will ask him, every time you are coming by walk, how come you came by bullock cart? Then he frankly says that Lord had appeared to him in a dream and asked him to bring the bullock cart, so that Lord wanted to come with him to be worshipped in Dakor. So people do not give any attention to him and they think that it is a simple joke. But that night, and they had actually tightly had closed the entire temple and the sanctum and the altar and all. But who can obstruct the Lord if he wanted to go? Lord will open all the doors and Lord will come and sit him on the bullock cart. And after traveling for some time, Lord asks Bodhana to take sleep, and Lord will physically drive the bullock cart till they reach the border of Dakor. So when the early morning next day when they opened, the Lord was not there. So then all these Brahmanas, they start following Bodhana, so that they wanted to capture him and bring back their deity. So when the deity, when it reaches, he wakes up Bodhana and informs him, please take care that you do one thing, you hide me in a pond. There was one Gomati pond and you hide me there. And while touching there, Lord will touch one neem tree by his hand. So it is said that wherever the Lord had touched, that branch, specific branch became very sweeter. Actually, neem tree is very bitter, but because of the touch of the Lord's hand, that specific branch became very sweet, and the Lord was hidden inside the pond. The people will come and the Brahmanas will come and they wanted the deity to be given back. So he goes to pacify them with a pot of curds, but they become even more angry. They try to attack him, and one of the person will throw one sword at him, and Bodhana dies there immediately. So after some time, the truce was formed. Then Lord will inspire the widow wife of Bodhana to give the weight of the deity in gold, so that the Brahmanas will become satisfied and they go back. And he also will instruct the Brahmanas that you go back after 6 months. There will be one specific well where the Lord, they will be able to find him up. One more replica deity, they will be able to find him in that well, and they can continue their worship. So these Brahmanas were also very greedy, and they put him onto a weighing stone. But by the mercy of the Lord, the weight of the deity, because she is an old lady and she has only one nose ring of her capacity of a gold. So Lord becomes so light that he will equivalently weigh to that nose ring. So they become very disappointed, and they're taking that nose ring, they go back, full not satisfied. And before 6 months only, they go and they retrieve the deity. So this deity almost looks like Dakorji, but he is smaller in size. He's not to the full capacity that is being worshipped in Dwarka. So in that way, the deity is established there in Dakorji. Later, Ranchorji, he is named, and he is worshipped there gorgeously like a king, the king of Dwarka. And opulent worship goes on by later various other kings have taken care for the deity establishment and all. So this is the perspective. The Lord is ready for the devotees' purpose. He is ready to share. He is ready to protect them. He is ready to give them an opportunity to service. So are we ready to accept the service of the Lord? That is the prime perspective, because the devotee is dear to the Lord. Lord is very dear to the devotees, and the devotee becomes very dear to everyone. So that is the principle that is being explained here. So any questions about it? Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll meet again in the next week.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.